so happy to be here. My name is Rue Simmons. I am the founder and executive director of First Repair. While a city councilwoman in Evanston, I led our city in passing the nation's first funded reparations initiative that is funded with tax revenue. And so I'm actually going to start very, very proud of our city, but also committed to doing so much more, because as important as that step is, relative to the harm, it's insufficient, so the work continues. So I wanted to open a little bit differently than I usually do with a video. Since we have a short amount of time, I wanted to open with this 2-minute trailer that shows snippets of the milestones and also the challenges of doing reparations work and how complex it is and also how historic it is. So I'm going to start with that video and then we're going to get into the work. That's right.
It should be cash payment. I think what they're offering us is an insult.
How do you determine who's supposed to get it?
Yeah, I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago is a good idea.
HR 40 is we're pushing very hard. There's been a lot of debate and discussion about the bill.
This is a proposal for reparations for the institution of slavery. The institution of slavery has never gone away.
Convict leasing,
The oppression of voting.
poll taxes, and racist GI bills.
HR 40 is in fact the response of the United States of America long overdue.
I get this call from a dear friend. He said, man, you know, we got a bad sister in Evanston, and she's pushing the reparations question strong.
Redress for the Black community, for the nation.
And so it was Alderman Simmons. You have become the visible face and the driving force of the Evanston Reparations Initiative.
Some mornings I wake up and I feel like, wow, I'm a part of history. This is special. And then it's intimidating at the same time, because what if you don't get it right?
The greatest hurdle is the political will make it happen. And Alderman Simmons made it happen, gathering a lot of evidence, specifically implicating actions of the city.
This program, as it is incomplete.
I don't know why they would be given more status than any other group of people.
People have been extremely nasty to me.
You don't give them money and then tell them what they can do with it.
You cannot pay my grandfather back. He's dead. Give us what we're due.
I don't think it's gonna go too far. But anyway.
I'm still not prepared to join an insurrection. I just want you to understand who we are.
We in Evanston are leading the way to heal a nation.
We don't want a piece of freedom. We want the whole package, and that's reparations.
If you're a professional woman whose career is not thriving.
With our interest. Perfect. So you can see the work is complicated, right? And our harm is so deep and heavy. It's hard to feel satisfied. And how will we be satisfied? But today I'm going to talk to, I'm going to speak from the perspective of being a stakeholder. Who here is a San Francisco stakeholder?
A what?
Stakeholder.
What stakeholder?
Stakeholder. You are Black. You are from this city. You want reparations. You want repair. You want empowerment. You want liberation. You are standing on that. So doesn't mean you have any particular title anywhere or any institution. Now, some of you may also have a title. Are there institutional leaders here as well? So there's some overlap, which is great. So that's what you and I have in common. And so I came to this work as a Evanston stakeholder, the historically Black community in Evanston, but I was an elected official at the time. And I came to be an elected official because I was a stakeholder and I saw that we were not being included. We were not enjoying the same livability as everybody else in town. We did not have access to anything that we needed that was being celebrated. And that led me into pursuing elected office. Did that and saw that all of these conditions we have are policy conditions and that we can change them with legislation. And as home rule municipalities, we have the authority to do so. And so I want to just start with that as context of where I come to you as a practitioner, not as an academic, and there's other types of leaders in the space, attorneys, and but I'm coming to you as your peer, as a stakeholder and a practitioner, just like you are. Additionally, my work is now informed by many touches with foundations, organizations, now dozens of them that I've been able to talk to on their history of harm and also their goals for repair. In addition to foundations and other institutions, many colleges and universities, just returning last week from speaking in the UK at the University of Cambridge, as they just sent their acknowledgement of their history of slavery as well. In addition to that, my work now has reached global communities. Also having been to Accra, Ghana, going to Cape Town to learn more about truth and reconciliation, going to Guinea-Bissau, West Africa, after doing DNA and genealogy work and finding out that my foremother was kidnapped from Guinea-Bissau, and so going and returning there last year so that I could connect with my ancestral home. And then also recently going to Vatican City, Rome, where we have been able to bring a case, a presentment for reparations to the Vatican for their atrocities against Black people and really initiating in some way the transatlantic slave trade. And so what I've learned in this experience is how connected all of it is, but how important the hyper-local work that we're doing is impacting global repair. And so although we are concerned about our neighborhoods, in my case, I was concerned about us like a 4-block radius where all Black folks were forced to live at one point in time. And now the work is not only impacting other cities to be inspired, but it's now impacting other nations to be inspired, having met city council leaders in the UK last week that are replicating the things that we're doing here in the United States. And then this is just a map that shows some of the cities in which I've been able to serve at First Repair. So quickly, there's so many ways that we think about reparations, and usually we hear people discuss a check or some sort of form of compensation. But we look at a very comprehensive approach to reparations, the process of repairing, healing, and restoring a people who were injured due to their group identity in violation of their fundamental human rights by a government, corporation, institution, or individual. And that definition is in COBRA's definition, which is the oldest 35-year-old organization that has been fighting for reparations. We're also looking at all forms of reparations. And so although there is a very active group for cash payments, when we go into every city, and when I say we, I'm speaking about my colleagues at Redress Network, every city we go in, the prescription for reparations from Black community is broad. Black folks want full repair. Black folks want a remedy, a portfolio of remedies that include cash, but also include access to education and health and housing and business and wellness and so on. And so we embrace the forms of reparations that are in this slide, and I would be happy to share this slide with anyone that's interested. And then additionally, we're looking at all institutions. So although the city of San Francisco is responsible to repair its harms in the Black community, so are the universities in town, the healthcare system, the public school systems, foundations, businesses, possibly some independent families in town have harmed Black community here in San Francisco. I don't know the full history, but I'm telling you the story is the same in every city that we have been in. And so we are holding institutions accountable in the space that we're in. And so in my case, I was an elected official. I knew that I had to do whatever I could do to the fullest authority of my role as a city councilwoman in a home rule municipality to bring repair. And so cities across the United States now are looking at local reparations. And before, we were all really fighting for HR 40. It was introduced in 1989, has been ceremonially reintroduced every Congress since 1989. Historically, it passed out of committee for the first time last year, but still, no HR 40 commission, and so we're doing what we can within our purview. The city of Evanston is looking at our zoning laws and our housing discriminations that were anti-Black, responsible for the current segregation that we have today. Other cities like Amherst, Massachusetts, is looking at their racial covenants. Tulsa, Oklahoma, of course, and very appropriately, are looking to repair the massacre, the race massacre of 1921. I'm sorry, I visited there and I get emotional every time I think about what happened there. So do I. So in Evanston, this is a city map of our historically redlined community. Sure is the same here. Although this has been outlawed with fair housing when that was passed in 1968, today, this red map, I live in the center of it, is where Black community still lives. It's also where Black community does not have a neighborhood school. The only neighborhood in all of Evanston that doesn't have a neighborhood school. The only neighborhood that doesn't have access to healthy food desert. The only neighborhood with air quality issues because of busing, because we don't have a school. We have less community amenities, less environmental assets, deteriorating built environment, and so on and so on in Evanston. And so these are some of the things that brought me to call the question of reparations in our city. In Evanston, we have an income gap of $50,000 between Black and white Evanston. Here is a list of recommendations that were given from Black Evanstonians in our work in 2019 when we began our community work to hear from the community on what forms of reparations do we want to see. And you can see that it's a long list. This is a very limited list, but I want to say that it's been the same in every city. And so I won't go through this whole timeline because this is really a 2-hour presentation and I have 10 minutes, but our process for reparations, although the introduction was made in 2019, I really look at 2002 as when we began our commitment to reparations. Judge Lionel Jean-Baptiste, who was then an alderman in Evanston, or councilman in Evanston, he returned, like many others, from the World Conference Against Racism in Durban, and many local leaders began introducing resolutions for reparations. Now, at this point, it was just to support HR 40. It didn't have accountability to the city. It didn't have a budget, but it was a commitment to repair. In addition, there were slavery disclosure laws that were passed as well. But through a couple years of work, community process, town hall meetings, stakeholder meetings, committee meetings, city council meetings, we passed Resolution 126R19. That established our reparations committee. It committed our first $10 million of cannabis sales tax to reparations, and then it prioritized our goals for reparations based on the feedback we had from the community, which was housing, economic development, and educational initiatives. So more about process, and I'll say that at this point we're dispersing reparations. So we went through a community process, identify eligibility, identify our first recipients, and have begun dispersing reparations. Now this is the part that's really, really important. Stakeholders, legal professionals, government, historians, financial institutions, allies, funding sources, researchers, philanthropists, everyone in community is responsible to the reparations process. Not just Black folks in us identifying the harm and prescribing the remedy, but our allies in doing the work, supporting it, funding it, holding themselves accountable, educating their own communities. And so this map, you probably saw it yesterday when the Redress Network presented, but I love to share it because it shows how so many cities, including San Francisco, are beginning to take their steps towards reparations. And here it shows how reparations is being categorized. And so lastly, I just want to say that what we're doing, San Francisco, Evanston, Detroit, Michigan, Amherst, Massachusetts, is having global reach. And so although we're here right now in San Francisco, communities across this world, including Europe and West Africa, which I've been only in the last 60 days, know about the work that's happening here and holding their own governments accountable and being inspired about how we might be repaired as a global Black community. And so my message really is that if we synchronize our local efforts, if we support one another, if we add on to best practices from city to city, we will get to global repair for Black folks. And so with that, I just want to introduce my colleagues. I don't know, raise your hand, which is coming first, and I'll introduce you.
Actually, you want to open up questions for you first?
Oh, okay.
Everybody saw us yesterday.
Oh.
But I think maybe, yeah,
Okay.
we had a lot of questions about.
Okay, so I just kind of breezed through that to make sure we had space for everyone, and I would be happy to answer any questions, yes.
I just had a question about the term stakeholder, and is that a fixed definition or is it in any way subjective?
I consider it fixed, and my colleagues will respond to it, but it is one that has been without debate in the movement for reparations. Stakeholders being those that are directly harmed or harmed through lineage. So although I wasn't in Evanston during our period of harm, which is 1919 to 1969 is when we had anti-Black laws, I'm a stakeholder because I'm a direct descendant of 6 generations of my family that lived in Evanston. And so it's not a term that, there's a lot of things we debate in the movement, that's not been one of them.
Yeah, I want to be clear about why I'm asking in this moment, because I'm a homeowner in Oakland, but I feel like I'm a stakeholder in San Francisco's movement, because everything they do to San Francisco, they then do it to Oakland. So I'm like, it's just rolling right down the hill. Let me just get over here first and support what's happening over here. But so that it was more of like, yeah, just like an internal question, but not about how you define it for the whole movement. Just in the room when you said raise your hand if you're a stakeholder, like I wanted to raise my hand, but I was like,
everybody Black is a stakeholder. Yeah. So, I mean, you may not share a zip code as, my brother here, but you're fighting for the same cause and you've had the same harm. So you may not be eligible for reparations here in San Francisco, but you are eligible for reparations.
but I can support people to get their money.
Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Yes.
One of the things that this conversation, and thank you so much for your work and supporting the work out here too, because you've been supporting this work out here with members of the community out here. So I just want to thank you for that, and just like how you bringing all us together in this space and the work that you're doing nationally. My question to you is, how do we develop a framework for institutions that may want to take an internal look on how they can identify harm and identify reparations for harm they've done? What if there's a business or a corporation who says, you know what, we know this is more focused on institutions of government, but what models can we use to identify the harm that we've done and offer a series of reparations to our communities? Because a lot of these corporations that move into these cities and the institutions who we're asking for reparations from will give them the tax breaks and the tax cuts. And thus they become part of that harm too, because they're taken from our community and then want to just send some volunteers to go pick some dirt. And we're, put, oh yeah, we Black Lives Matter, see? So Black Lives Matter, but all right, what's your reparations? How are you going to repair your harm?
That's right. Love the question, and you're spot on. And the framework really starts with the case for reparations. And so each institution, organization, whoever it is, government has to have a harm report. Some communities call it a harm report, but they have to do their own history, uncomfortable history. And so at Cambridge, there was just a debate that I think is worth exploring more, that institutions don't do their own harm report. For obvious reasons, right? But what's been happening now is you have to start with a case specific to that institution. So you can't satisfy the goals of HR 40, which are slavery reparations and the transatlantic slave trade, but you can do what's happened in San Francisco. And so once you establish that, whether the institution does it or someone else, in our case, we had a local historian, Dino Robinson, who's been archiving Black history for about 25 years. And so that accelerated our process in getting our report. From the report, we uncovered that there were zoning and housing laws that were anti-Black, and some cases were so extreme that Black family homes were physically picked up and moved to a less valuable part of town because they didn't want us to have access to our lakefront and the value of that. And so once we had that, we were able to identify a harm and then narrowly tailor remedies in direct correlation to that harm. And so that's how we came up with housing as a first priority, but we're still working to uncover more. And unfortunately, we know there's not going to be any shortage of harms.
So you guys got an internal historian.
A community historian. Yeah. So my first request went to our clerk's office, and I got a very surface kind of general, no specificity that allowed me to take it to a redress network and do something. But the historian gave us the real. Yes.
Can I piggyback on that just briefly? Because this is a really important question, and it's something that we observed. So we piloted a coalition in Virginia. And basically the coalition is, can you hear me? Okay. Basically the coalition is a coalition of Black-led individuals and or organizations that are working on reparations or redress at the local level. And then alliances who came in, and so maybe those are institutions or organizations, and then allies, so non-Black POC or white institutions. And one of the most interesting things that came out of that was actually the Virginia League of Women Voters. So I'm going to just raise this case up because I think it's really interesting. So the first thing they did is they examined their own history of discrimination and harm. And they wrote a really comprehensive report on the role that the Virginia League of Women Voters played in continuing oppression, plunder, economic genocide, right? And they developed this report, and then they educated themselves on reparations. So they would come to the coalition meetings, and they would hear about the efforts that were happening around the Commonwealth of Virginia, and talk to communities that were leading redress at the local level. And now they're in the process of developing reparations, right? So they took a really hard look at themselves. It was like, we have done a lot of harm. And not only have we acknowledged that, but we've now put it into publication that we are responsible and we have accountability, and then educate themselves on reparations, and specifically are responding to the Black-led efforts so that the reparations are being led by the Black-led organizations in the ways in which they'll input either money or resources or whatever they have. So I think that for an institution is similar to what's happened at the city, but also a way that institutions can take a real role in this space.
I want to add something to that is what's important. You could probably keep that. Is that I'm glad Linda got to the point where she said they were listening to the Black community as they were prescribing remedy, because had they decided on their harm and prescribed their remedy, and that would have been a problem, right? So you want to make sure that the community is engaged at the point of, really, I think at the point of uncovering the harm, but definitely at the point of prescribing remedy. In the orange shirt, yes.
Yeah. Excuse me, Oscar James. I have two things I want to say. One, New York and San Francisco Stock Exchange is a problem that has stopped Black folks from benefiting economically. But in San Francisco, for an example, a lot of San Francisco was redlined. And the only two places we could live is Baby Hunters Point and also Western Addition. Western Addition and the Barbary Close were the two basic places that Black folks lived back in the 1800s and what have you. A lot of people think we came here in the 40s and what have you. We've been here since the Spanish American with Alexander Leostorf, who was Black in the city. But my whole thing is this: when Willie Mays first came here to San Francisco, He tried to buy a house up in Forest Hills, and they denied him buying a home up in Forest Hills. He had to stay with Mary Shelley at that particular time. In 54, 55, we were building Westlake with government monies, okay? My mother tried to move out because there was a lot of black people moved in Hunters Point. My mother was one way, my father was another way. She didn't want to live with a whole bunch of black folks. She wanted to move in Westlake. We went to Westlake. They told her there that they didn't allow black folks out there then. That was another red line. Not until 1955, 56, they allowed black folks to move into Lakeview, Ocean View. There was no blacks. There was a thing out there where they were denied. Now all this is in black and white, where they can go and tell you what you can and cannot do. A lot of it is being changed now, but we still have places in San Francisco that black folks and third world people cannot live. That's all it is.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Hakeem, and my question is about that in a world where we do get reparations, how do we ensure that that's not it, that we're not forgotten? And the fact that how I feel like Native Americans are forgotten after they got reparations, and how like people would like to say that racism was over when Obama got elected, like, oh, we got reparations, oh yeah, I got no more problems now, you good, we can ignore you now. So how do we build that narrative or ensure that that reality, you know, it doesn't go that line, not go where as soon as we get reparations, that's not the end all be all of you know, of our strife and our struggle. We make sure that yeah, we get reparations, but if we see some problems, we still, you know, going after them.
That's right. That's right. So two things. One, that was really scary because I never heard of things that close. I didn't know if that's the norm.
Exhibition.
Okay.
There's a exhibition today.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to be hearing
the whole weekend.
Okay.
Perfect. Tell it in and of itself because they spend money on that tax money.
Yeah.
Right.
Flipping it.
Right.
The
And then
Marines
to
and
the
Navy,
point that brother, did you say Oscar?
Oscar, yes.
Yeah. In keeping our history, whether it's through oral history or, you know, Black history, museums and archives and things, we have to keep that alive. And then I think we have to maintain our hope. I know one of the speakers earlier talked about hope. I think it was Dr. K maybe. And so once we get a milestone, we have to know we build on that milestone and that we have to continue. So like in Evanston, that milestone is fine, but we have to continue building and building and building. And so I think that part is on us, that we don't allow institutions to feel like they have accomplished something by sometimes apologies and resolutions without impact. So I think that part is on us to stay organized and united amongst ourselves. That's one thing we could all do better, is be united within our own communities so that we can keep the demand for reparations alive. I think here first, before we go, you had a question?
No, I was.
Oh, there was, okay. Yes, here, yes.
Just for clarity, the mic is so the folks who are watching on the live stream can hear what you're asking.
Okay.
So there's a proverb, and the proverb says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. But when desires are met, it leads to a tree that's fruitful and full of life. And so we're going after so many things: affordable housing, education, medical, all of these things that we need, and we still have to ask the same way. What I saw yesterday when our budgeting leaders were there, and the names escape me.
Jose Cisneros.
Yes, okay. How excited he got when Diane from 100% College Prep said 100 of my students successfully, and they did this, they did that, and I'm so glad I gave them money, and what else do you need? Our problem too today is we go after these things, but we're still not fighting for the root cause and American history. American history excludes all of the contributions when you really want to talk about what we've done to make life better, easier, and more comfortable, and to advance science and technology. It's excluded from the history books. But when you add that and fight that they put this in the history books, that it goes to the corporate field, it goes to the social field and industry as well, I believe, and I know from the reaction of everything that we do that looks so successful, and the Dr. Size, Dr. Davises, and yourself, you get the yes. We need to push that they allow American history into the schools, into the narrative when we talk about how Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, but failed to say how he got to the moon and back home safely. We don't push for those things, and therefore the next thing we need, well, what is it on this list? So you have to go through that list carefully and jump through hoops each time. But we need to look at root causes for all of these symptoms that we're solving and work with those root causes, because globally, the African American nation is viewed as a people that don't contribute to the world and society around them, only because they don't know their American history. So we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility, and if we would think that as well as all the other wonderful things we're doing, we're going to get much further, much faster, and with less of a hardship, losing so many of us along the way. This out-migration is taking us out. Many of us won't be here too much longer. And you're going to lose history when Oscar James, myself, and others that are up there in age, when we disappear. And you need that history. You need to understand it. And we need to be able to move with what we do because of it.
That's right. Hope everyone took notes on that.
I'm going to piggyback on that right now.
Yes.
I hope each and every one of you become members of the San Francisco African American Historical and Cultural Society.
Yes.
We are archiving our history, and I'm a board member, okay? So definitely.
Can you share the website for those that are watching online?
It's sfaahcs.org. San Francisco African American Historical and Cultural Society.
Awesome.
And
we had a question.
The address. Anthony, it's on 762 Fulton in the Western Edition.
African American Art and Culture Complex.
Yeah, in the African Arts and Culture Complex. Still.
Thank you very much. So one thing that really resonated with me in watching the film, or the clip that you showed, is the sentiment of this is you're like honored to do this work, but also there's the burden of what if we don't get it right. And I have the immense professional privilege and honor of my entire career to be working alongside the San Francisco African American Reparations Committee, and on behalf of the HRC. I'm also the committee members because they've been doing great work. We have, thank you. So I am wondering, we know that Black San Franciscans deserve billions of dollars. We know this. It's been written many times. There's like 3 reports that have been done in 50 years that say the same thing. And that's the case in a lot of American cities when we study Black communities. We know what we owe. We've said it many times, and we haven't kept the promise. And so what I'm wondering is, how do we, there's this question of political will, and how do we, that is sort of the elephant in the room, that, even though we create these documents that have these recommendations, the next step after that is to push through political will and make it actually happen. And I do have those concerns, like, maybe can hear it in my voice, like I want this to succeed beyond our wildest dreams, but the reality is that the political will sometimes ebbs and flows. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that and how to really push through to get what we deserve and what we're owed, or what, Black San Francisco is owed, without selling us short or having this, having someone say, give us something less than we deserve and say, okay, well, reparations is done, let's move on to the next thing. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
I do. Do you want to answer it? So, so the point when I said, what if we get it right, a lot of the filming for this happened in 2019 and 2020, and we grow every day. And one of my mentors has helped me understand that, this is our leg of the race. We are building on the work of the elders and our ancestors that have been doing the work. So any steps that we make is good. So I don't want anyone else to use that as an example to beat yourself up or feel like you've not contributed enough. Just waking up Black and surviving sometimes is enough in America, right? Mm-hmm. So I've grown a lot since then, but the political will is everything. And so that's why, for me, I had a short window of time before I left office, knowing that when I transition out, the same sort of fire, would likely not be there to carry it on. And so we have to make sure that, we're feeling empowered, that we keep the mess all about narrative. More narrative work needs. And so narrative change is becoming a topic of every discussion in racial redress, as it should be. And so political will changes, elected leaders change. Even right now, we're looking at, the hope for HR 40 to pass. And now the discussion is how it might interfere with midterm elections and this and that. And so we know that there's always going to be sort of that political culture and climate that will keep us further away from our goals. But we have to know that we're building on what Callie House did and what Queen Mother Moore did, and the message of King and Malcolm and so on, and know that we can't tire from that, and also know that it's a continuum. Like, our work is cumulative, and then just wake up and also be well. And so I hope Billy, she's our wellness person in the movement, talks more about how we better balance things, because I was not well. I was very unhealthy, just working every day, and I realized, like, I can't solve our race crisis, right? Like me. And in the interim, I'm gonna kill myself, and I have children and parents to take care of. And so I think that we just, we love ourselves and we trust ourselves. We stay committed to the work. We work together, because none of us is as smart as all of us, right? And then we be well. And I'm gonna let Billy make sure that she talks to us about being well as well. Mm-hmm.
Can everybody just give Robin a round of applause? We were actually hoping that this session would be more of a conversation. We were hoping that you guys could engage with us. We were hoping that you guys would be able to, and I wanted to uplift some of the people who are in the room. I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that there are people who are doing this work in their work lives in this space with us. This gathering that you guys are having, like for this session, is creating an opportunity, and you are the chosen ones in this moment for the work that you are doing. Like, I just have to acknowledge who you are in this space, and even if you're doing camera, and even if you are being a support person and don't view yourself as an ally in the space, or you don't realize that you're here for a real reason, I need you to know that it wasn't by accident that we're together in this particular moment, and that we are here now. A beautiful Congresswoman said, our existence is our resistance. Like, us unapologetically entering into the room is what we are offering, and that is a lot. Like, you are here, and we appreciate you for everything that you're doing and the fact that you survived to be able to get here. And on top of that, your ancestors and everything that they did for you to have been here right now in this moment is valued and appreciated and acknowledged, period. And I just have to remind us that this ain't by accident. Like, we are here. Yes, like, I'm not playing with you. Okay, so I think I met everybody yesterday. My sister's here with us today, and she told me that I didn't tell you guys anything about me. Like, I didn't do an intro. So I am a stakeholder. I am a member of the community. I am a descendant. I was born in Africa because my parents got fed up with the United States and they left and tried to repatriate semi-unsuccessfully because they came back, and I grew up in the DC area. But the time that my family spent in Africa shaped our worldview in ways that helped me to see something that is robbed from Black children from the time they come out of, like, come into life and look at a white doctor delivering them. Like, something happens in that space where you're institutionalized from the moment of birth. Something happens in that space when you are institutionalized in the way that you perceive growth. Like, you have to go to school to be able to validly grow and experience life. And so this conference had me shook a little bit. Like, I appreciate you guys because you raised some incredible questions yesterday. And I am more than sick and tired of having conversations about conversations. And I just need for us to recognize that the format that we are able to do things in is not really conducive to the long-term work that we're trying to do. And so because we have a 2-hour time slot together in this beautiful space when they're having an air show, then I want to remind you guys that the work that we're doing in this is a moment for us to come together and then go forward and do the work together. Like, this is not something that we're not consuming this like a television show. Like, we're here to be able to do this work together and get this work done in ourselves, in our families, in our communities, in our nation, and in the world. And that's the way that I engage the work. So I wanted to share a little bit because they said I'd have 10 minutes to talk. And so I said, well, one, I want to bring you guys into that conversation. Like, each of you, I want for us to do some things together and workshop a little bit. Maybe even if we have 10 more minutes to break up into some small groups and like have some deeper conversations. But I also wanted to take a moment and recall some of their very important points that were raised. And John, from both sides of the conversation, I want him to be a part of a group that leads a conversation that talks very specifically about, well, my sister called it the case for evidence. Like, I got up at 5 o'clock this morning processing for which I was talking about yesterday. And the question was raised. So Linda Mann, as you guys know, is my colleague in this space. And I am unapologetically me. This is how I am. This is how I continue to be. So this is it. This is how I am. So one of the questions, or the question that John raised yesterday was about why do we need someone like Linda to be in this space with us? Like, why can't we just do it for ourselves? Why can't we just go and collect the check? Why can't we just, how come it's not just coming to us when they know what they did? Like, they know what they did. And it was done, and we all know it. Like, we don't have to pretend like it didn't happen. Like, the harm happened. The harm happened, and it's really clear and obvious. And I used to use the example of, like a person I have a friend whose baby was born in a cab. And because the baby was born in a cab, then the hospital couldn't certify the birth, but the baby was there. And the baby was, like they did the work after the baby came, but they couldn't do the paperwork to be able to get the child the documentation that they existed. And I think Black San Francisco has an issue with being denied their existence. Like, people will say, who is, like, what, Black San Francisco? That was a long time ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, San Francisco doesn't have a reparations story because there was no slavery in San Francisco. Like, what is that? And so you guys have some incredible historians, and I think that your question was really perfect about the harm report. I am getting off on a tangent. All right. There is the harm report, and there is that piece, and that's what I asked for. I said, okay, I'm gonna go to a city, I'm gonna talk to the city, where's the harm report? And what they sent me is the names of about a dozen historians. Report. So that's work that needs to be done, and I need for everybody who is interested in that to join the Historic Preservation Society that she stepped out, join that, talk to Dr. Carolyn Scott, and talk to Oscar James. And
Why do we need a harm report?
Right, evidence. So I'm a lawyer, you know that. So when you, the reason why you need a harm report, the reason why you need to present that there is because you have to be able to prove and demonstrate that, first of all, you exist. So we have a community in Virginia, Brown Grove community in Virginia, and the first thing that they told them is that they don't exist. And so we came in, we said, we know you exist, and here's the way to document that you exist. Put these pieces of paper forward so that the government can give you the certification, i.e. birth certificate, that you are here and you exist. So once you've got and again, it is a lot of unnecessary, I don't know, it's a lot that you have to jump through. But the point is, you want to be able to present that evidence. You want to be able to present that documentation. You don't want to go into it without knowing what documents count and what documents don't count. Like, I've got the umbilical cord, does that count? No. The umbilical cord is not evidence that counts. So if you guys are interested in that particular conversation, then I want to break up into a smaller group and have that conversation about the existence, the evidence, the case, like why you need people who understand how to jump through hoops to be able, or what a hoop looks like, so that you can go through those processes to be able to get into those positions. Like, that's a real conversation. The other group that I'd like for us to break up into is the coalition question. So like, there was a person yesterday who asked a question about, what do I do as an ally? What do I do in this space? How do I support this how do I not step on people's toes? How come we don't follow the example of the Japanese and just do what they did? And it's such a beautiful question, because what I know is that the Japanese modeled us and they got it. So if y'all want to have that conversation, let's break up in a real quick group and do that. And then the third conversation is, it's about the money flow. So like, checks get disseminated and money is flowing. And why is the money flowing this way and not flowing that way? Like, how come, like, how does the money flow? How do we need the money to flow? Is that a conversation? Yeah, all right. So we've got, what, 10 minutes?
What time is this over? 3:30.
Okay, so we're good.
You got 45.
Okay, we're good. So we got.
Maybe like 5:40 if we want to have time to walk to the final closing of the hike.
Yeah.
So aim around 3.
Yeah. I want you in a conversation. This is brilliance right here. All right, so I'll just do like 5 minutes of questions real quick in a group, and then we can kind of, and if you guys want to do it a different way, we can kind of do that. But I just wanted it to be your moment, and I want you guys to get what you came to get out of this, because we didn't fly all the way out here to hear ourselves talk about what we always talk about. Like, we came here to get you guys where you want to be. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead. That was you.
Conversation or question?
Oh,
You're saying, no, you're saying, go ahead conversation or go ahead questions?
I saw you raise your hand, and that's the reason why I wanted to answer the questions before we go into conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't want to lose the point about rest as a form of resistance.
Oh,
and
right,
so
that's right.
I'm
She told me
really
I was supposed to do
hoping that
wellness.
we talk about that self-care, because
Yes.
I asked Sister Robin this in Chicago. I want to know, because we
Yes.
still sick and tired of being sick and tired. Thank you. That's the
Yes.
neighbor.
Yes. Okay, let me get the other questions too.
Maybe that's a group.
Oh, the wellness group? No, I'm gonna answer the wellness question first. I'm gonna talk about wellness. So, anytime I do any event, and they all know this, that in the planning of that event, we have at least one person who's in the room that's concentrated on wellness. And it's a triggering topic, and it's like trauma-inducing and re-traumatizing. And the people who get the best funding for it, like, really, really want you to keep telling your trauma story, like, again and again. Like, show us the scars, you know. Like, how many times did they take your house? And how, look, you're homeless. Oh, that's so good. Tell us about what was that like? What was it like when you were sleeping on but were you sleeping on a park bench? Oh, but that's not really homeless. You were sleeping in your car? Oh, no, wait a second. So you were sleeping on a couch? Okay, yeah, that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I am a pure advocate of wellness in process. And the phrase that I use when we're planning and thinking and working together is, what do I say? How you do what you do is just as important as what you do. And like, reparations work should be reparatory. Like, if you're doing reparatory justice and you are a stakeholder in this space, then you should absolutely be getting beautiful things that happen as a result of the work that you're doing. And I'm going to speak on a slightly controversial conversation topic, and that's Patrisse Cullors. This morning, I was, very early in the morning, I went to my sister goes swimming all the time for her sanity. And so she took me to her pool, and I said, okay, well, if there's amenities, I can deal with that, because I'm not going swimming because my edges. But we went to a hot tub, and it's cold outside. It's like 70, 60 something degrees in the morning, and it was lovely. And there were all of these wealthy older folks in Santa Cruz, because I was in Santa Cruz, at the sauna, and I went to the hot tub, and I went to the and I did go out dancing last night, and we did deal with a lot of real life things as well. There's a young man who was arrested this morning, and she processing a lot of, like, I'm very emotional, and so I was like dealing with everything that you guys were saying yesterday and wanting so much to be able to help you with what you're doing. So Patrisse Cullors was really harshly criticized for the home that she created for activists in the space, that she wanted to create a place where people could go and not be stressed, not have to worry about housing, not have to worry about, like, they could be activists and artists and creatives in the space where they could go outside and go into a hot tub and go into a steam room and not be stressed. And I don't think that only rich old white people should have access to not being stressed. And the conditions that we create space is that we have to work all the time, And we don't deserve to take a break. And when we do, we're like not really respected for it. And so I was having this beautiful conversation with John about walking the walk and doing this work, and how you do what you do is just as important as what you do. And I do get a little bit of pushback from my supervisor when I'm planning on doing things that are pure joy, because I like doing reparations work that is pure joy for Black people. Because what did my ancestors struggle for if I can't enjoy being here with you right now? Like, if we can't have a beautiful lunch at the pier, whatever that thing was called that we just now went to, then why are we doing this work? Why are we struggling? Why can't we enjoy life? Like, we should be able to find joy. We should be able to do that, and we should be able to redress the harms that have been done, but we don't always have to be in trauma for us to be able to be redressing our harms. We should be able to do health and wealth and healing, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I know that was a long answer, but let's break up real quick. You guys ready? All right.
Remind people how to break up. I think we might need money.
Yep. All right. I'm off camera. All right, let's, so of the 3 groups, which one did you want to be in?
Can you remind me of the groups?
Okay. Did you get it? You got it? There was.
Farm report, coalition, money flow. Are we doing one-on-one? Or
How many people in the room want to do wellness and just talk about wellness? Nope, we're not doing wellness.
okay, so just those 3.
Okay, so how many people in the room want to talk about like harm report, history of harm, developing your evidence story?
I want the hell-raising group.
You want the hell-raising group?
Come here, John.
You want all the drama?
Come here.
Okay. You want harm? All right, we're gonna move over to Dr. Scott. We're gonna go over with Dr. Scott as well.
This is harm report over here. Harm report.
Harm report.
Okay.
Money.
Money. All right, Yasmina, you're doing money. We're gonna over
What's
here.
your harm report?
Money, yep.
That's his sister.
Money.
What's your sister?
Yasmina.
Is Yasmina. Wow.
Okay, right here.
So this is harm report? Okay, I'm gonna swing around this way. Let's swing around. All right, so I'm gonna say real quick.
I want to wake that up. Let's wake that up.
Well, okay, so anything, even from you,
Did it again, y'all tried it again.
your name, you know. Right, and so the reason why they're going to compensate is because they can identify what they're compensating. If I'm gonna celebrate your birthday, you tell me your birthday. So it's just documentation. The reason, so that when you're gone, the children that come along that deserve and say why you were given, and I am heard. Listen, our history. We're talking about history, and that's a portion of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's multiple types of reparations. So for the different types of reparations, you need evidence for it. For like slavery reparations, you're right. Just being a slave descendant is enough to get the slave reparations. 'Cause that's so hard. But then there's like Jim Crow, and you got. Then you got
Black codes.
Black codes, and you got like even like what happened in San Francisco and people out redlining.
Yeah, so then that's what we want.
Right.
And maybe that might even mean if you could only name one, and they say, well, we're gonna give you 4 minutes. He names 10, ooh, we need to give you, and give us in 5. You know, I don't know how they're gonna do it, none of us know. But what I'm saying is evidence.
And it's like,
Evidence.
we taking the government
It's your
to court.
witness.
You know what I'm saying? We taking the government to court, so we basically, the trial attorneys, we like, okay, here's our evidence. And we just looking at the judge. The judge got, his hands is full. He's like, yeah, well, all this evidence we gotta get to. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard of the tort? It's like, you ever been in a car accident and then when you're in a car accident, somebody wronged you, and that's basically what reparations are. We've been wronged, so we gotta go to court for it. Like, okay, government, you're not giving us our 40 acres of fuel equivalent to this day.
And yet, even though, you still have to prove the harm that was done. You cannot prove the harm that was done beyond a scratch on your finger. We don't get too much.
Even with in the 50s, when I was elected, that's when a lot of people. In the early 50s, black communities, Western District, Hunts Point, was a thriving community. A lot of people think of people who came here was farm workers, did the picking cotton and all that kind of, which we had a lot of this. But a lot of people came here to San Francisco. But a lot of that came out. A lot of people who came here in San Francisco in the 40s and what have you came from colleges, Southern University, Grambling, Morehouse here, the whole 9 yards came here. But the only work they could have gotten was working in the shipyard.
And cleaning.
And clean domestic, the mothers were doing domestic work. But my whole thing is this: they were doing that and being paid 99 cents an hour. That's what they were paying in the shipyard, 99 cents an hour. In 1945, that's what he was getting paid. But he was a graduate from Southern University and was denied to do his trade. He went to school for here. My aunt came from Louisiana. And they had Colfax riding all 9 yards. But when she came here in the 20s, and she was denied teaching in San Francisco, where she ended up going to Oakland. You see what I'm saying? That's why a lot of people from Oakland, a lot of people from Oakland who left San Francisco because they couldn't practice their trade, teaching or whatever. So they went to Oakland and they started teaching in different things in Oakland. But most of them came out of San Francisco. Okay? But at the same time, and you had historical people here living in San Francisco, such as the boss's name, Jack Johnson, lived in San Francisco. A lot of people don't know that. Maybe the first one had a car, riding here, going back to the south, coming back home. With the whole thing, everything that we did economically, we were denied. Okay? In the 50s, when the 54, 55, when they came with the GI Bill, that was the first time black folks had the opportunity to buy homes in San Francisco, besides the one that we're living in. Western Addition of Bobby Coast, blacks were here in the 1800s, when the Spanish were here, they were more here. Before the Chinese came, they were here.
Can I ask you to for this? We own schools, we own our own homes, our own businesses, cafes, dental office, newspaper. Okay.
Right. But we gotta say this.
Housing means health. We were talking about wellness. They saw that we were healthy, we were strong, we were vibrant. Housing means health. Okay? Housing with quality maintenance means wellness. We were well, strong, vibrant. Housing with quality maintenance and affordable affordability, we were working hard, we could afford what we had, that means stability. But take away housing, you take away health, take away the quality maintenance and put them in projects that you serve substandardly, you're taking away the wellness. You take away the affordability with that maintenance, you take away stability. We were stable, we were well, and we were healthy, and we were thriving. So the harm, they took it away. Health went down, depression, drugs came in, the wellness left, stability left. So they had isolated us. We were still going to church, we were still powerful. The churches were strong. Take away the isolation, because even in isolation, we were powerful. Let's fix it so we are migrating. Redevelopment started. Move them out this way, move them to Gilroy, move them out to Antioch. Take away our home, we still go to church and we're going to be strong. Take away the church access to our churches so that they have to start churches out there who can no longer commute. It's not the easiest. Children are commuting and you're going to work in San Francisco, kids are in Antioch, something a kid is sick, how do you get to a child that fast? You take that away, stability, unity is gone then.
Set aside for black,
The
there is a catch-up credit program,
stability,
not that, that's the bank.
thriving, vibrant nation of people.
But,
Governor Newsom said something in 2007 when he started and gave to Beatty at this point that it was $1 billion, $91 billion.
so here's the difference, so we have,
He said and asked and sent me to Bayview. Would you
part of our
bring
real
our
estate
people
tax,
back to God?
water tax.
Not our people, but your people, the African Americans. He said they were stronger
But what he
and
has
better
allowed us to
when
touch
they
is
were
federal
with
government.
God.
So like right now,
Look at them now. This is how we do. This is when Kirkwood was Blood Alley and all of this, they were killing each other. Children and pastors were having funerals, 2 and 3 in a day. So we're talking about wellness, we're talking about the harm that was done, and we're talking about the repair.
Okay.
We've got generations of layers to repair. So that's what
The only thing was your name, Antioch, you spelled out all of those dump sites.
Oh, what?
East Palo Alto, that's where they dumped us, that's where they sent us,
Yeah, yeah.
And, matter of fact, my godmother was the first black mayor of East Palo Alto. She left Fillmore and went to East Palo Alto, and then Miss Claire, the first black mayor of San Mateo, along with her in the 70s, and she's retired now, but we were scattered and sent out.
That reminds me, like, to your point, where, like, what's the point of the Harvey Court? It's because, like, I was having a debate last night with a brother, and he was talking about there's nothing stopping black people now from prosperity. I'm like, we got all this history.
They don't know.
It's like,
They don't know history.
Like, it's crazy, all this history that's affecting us to this day. And it's right now that's going on. When talk about work discrimination, it was until recently where they allowed like locks in the workplace, they allowed afros.
You can't come in here like this. No, but the pandemic, give me a break. We can't afford that no more.
So like I was saying, like we need concrete evidence to prove not only on what happened, but how what happened still affects us today.
And still happy, because when you go to buy a home, they have you all these hurdles you have to jump over to get a home. Now it's a down payment. Can you come up with $25,000 to put down on the house? That's the least you have to put down on the house right here in San Francisco today. And I paid $30,000 for my home, the whole house.
You said how much?
30,000.
Now, what year?
Now, let me say this, if I can say this. You said something, evidence, concrete. You know what the other races say, the other cultures? I said it, and they feel safe saying it around me. I let them feel safe. We hear reparations, we're talking reparations. But when they hear it on the news, what else do they want? We gave them welfare. We gave them affordable housing and the projects. We gave them affirmative action. So we're supposed to be happy.
Let me clarify.
So what else? You know, why we're running up and down. But the evidence
Let me
is
clarify.
why we need
Let me
to
clarify
do
one
what
thing
we're
on welfare.
doing.
The reason welfare came into existence, before 54, 55, before Alzheimer's became president, black family was like this, and it was prosperous. Okay, we had pharmacies, we had all kinds of businesses. No, it was established for us. When they people was off in Hunter's Point Shipyard, the American Can Company down there on 3rd Street, where the can company was, it was 300-400 people working in the American Can Company, most of the women. Okay, you had the slaughterhouse, you had Dalmandi, you had Swift, you had Allen, who was the last new company that moved out of Hunter's Point. They all the black folks off. This is the depression, there was a great depression here. But wait a minute, when they came with the welfare system, they did not allow the men. If you were in welfare, if you were still in the tertiary project, they did not allow the men to stay in the house. When they came to the welfare system, to divide the black family. They divided the black family. That was welfare.
The government established a program to benefit for white people, so they gave welfare for white people.
But they didn't give it to us.
That's what I'm
But,
saying.
They didn't give it to
yeah,
us.
so he's saying the very beginning of the origin of welfare. White trash got welfare.
Right.
I want to say something, because I heard something you said and I got triggered.
Okay.
You saw people moving to Oakland, Harlem, and the Western Fillmore. And we ain't talking about the black folks and the people that probably pimped our people and sold us out for co-ed housing and sold it to the development and moved us out and moved out of the city.
But most of the people back, we're talking about in the 50s, when people came here from the South, who were educated, who were teachers, okay, who was doctors. The only one place they could practice their trades was over in Oakland. You could not practice it here. Very few people, Dr. Coleman. There was a brother over there on Jerry Street, a doctor, I forgot his name because his grandmother was a black doctor. Wesley Johnson Farms, he had the pharmacy there on okay, and he had one over in Hunter's Point, Dr. Coleman. But others who had college degrees could not practice in San Francisco, they had to move to Oakland. That's why you had, what's his name, Ron Dillon's father, with the Puma case,
But I'm talking about in the 60s and the 70s. We're talking about the Harlem of the West. When we talk about redevelopment, when they came to the city, a lot of our black leaders even was sold us out. They cut the deals with development.
I'm not going to agree with that.
Oh, you're not going to, see, we can't,
I'm not going to agree with that. Listen.
I know my grandmother was a part of that.
Right, but
That ran
listen what they
redevelopment
did.
out of
They
that.
brought Justin Herman in here. They brought Justin
I'm
Herman.
talking about in the field. I'm talking about, let's just talk about the field.
That's what started.
That's what I'm saying. But when they pushed those people out of the field,
To Hunter's Point.
yeah, a lot of them went to 100 Point, but it started with redevelopment. A lot of our leaders over there cut those deals to tell our people to come in there and do this cooperative opportunity. When we had those Victorian homes over there, they wanted to recreate.
Right,
But we sold out our people, a lot of our leaders.
A lot of those people in the 1940s and 45.
He said he had held
A lot of those, a lot of those people in 1945, when the war ended, came out the GI Bill, they were selling the homes of the Japanese in Western Addition for $4,000, $5,000. That's who got the brothers from Hunters Point, Sunnydale, bought those homes. When they bought those homes, then they let the Japanese out of the internment camp. When they came back, the blacks was owning Western Addition. Prior to that, it was still a lot of blacks owning Western Addition. I have pictures I gave to the sister. I gave her some yesterday. Where in the 1800s, where blacks were living on clay, Sacramentos, and all like that, all that was black. The 06 earthquake, all that was black. Okay, but when Justin Herman did not care, did not go and ask Western Addition what they want. They just started tearing shit down. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I know. Booker T, and there was another hotel that was on Fillmore. Started with M. Another hotel just as famous as the Booker T. You know, what's the name? Billie Holiday and Louis Armstrong, all of them. All of them stayed in the Booker T. And the hotel on Fillmore. The only place they could stay. In the 1906 earthquake, 1906 earthquake, when downtown was destroyed, the city and county of San Francisco moved to Fillmore. That was the downtown of San Francisco after the 06 earthquake. Okay? I'm telling you what I know. I'm not telling you something. And this is people that have told me. Another person who knows a lot about the history of Western Addition is
I think my thing is this, you know, and I value our history and all of that stuff, right? And I'm just looking at where we at right now. How do we transform as a community? I've been talking about the Dr. Scott, how do we pass the torch to these young folks, and so that we can advance our community, because a lot of times we're not advancing because we're not turning around.
We don't know. A lot of young people don't know what their parents have went through. Give you an example. I said yesterday, Purdue's market on Gerald Street, Hunts Point. They wanted to embark a building. I was a little bit broke. Pick a mill and stuff with this guy Red. We were going to pick millers, bring them back. We were stopping in Oakland at the Chinese produce market and roll millers. We would go down on Barcadero, then we got to the farmer's market and unload millers. I read my tag said it was going to move to Gerald Street. And that's when they still had the bridge up going down on Broadway Bridge from the big bridge. These guys getting ready to start developing down there. This is the 50s. They promised them that they'll move them in Hunts Point, which they want to go out there with them. They built that whole produce market. The whole time, Bank of America, the bank was renting. Everybody there got rent for 50 years free. That means they could send their kids to college. That means they could buy a home, wherever they want to buy a home, because they didn't pay no rent there. Okay? What did we get? When they moved people out of South Basin, okay, you know where the park is, Baby Park? All that back there was projects. They had those projects, South Basin projects, and you had to do on stilts. You had the Double Rock project, which Al Griffin is now, and I had some pictures of those. They had those projects. When they tore them down, a lot of people moved to Colorado, different places like that. Okay? They did not compensate them. When people were living in, I was born on Navy Road. Before they turned the property over to the housing authority, it was the Navy property. My mother and my father was paying rent to the Navy. Okay, before they turned over the house bill. When they turned over the house bill, say when I moved back up in the year, I was paying $59 for rent. If my mother and my father was up there, they were paying, say $30, $40. Okay? Now, if they bought a home in Western Addition in 45, 54, 55, for $4,000 or $5,000, did they pay for them projects? You pay for them projects. So when they tore the projects down, they didn't compensate me. When they started tearing the places down, and people, white folks, my grandmother first bought a home in Vegan Hunts Point, 1371 Purdue. Okay? When she bought that house, she paid $12,000 for that house. Okay? $12,000. All right? But at the same time they did that, people were paying rent, and they moved out. our Italians and the Polacks and all the other races that were living there, they moved them out of San Mateo. Okay? They moved them over in Wesley. My mother tried to go in Wesley because she seen all of my family. My mother didn't want to be around the whole bunch of black people. My father, he was cold fed. He was brother. He was, like we stand here. Okay, so she shopped all around. She was leaving because couldn't buy a house in England. They was building Wesley. Get out the car. And this is not where the shopping center is. This is where the homes is. They parked over there. We was in 53. Dark. My mother and father got out the car, and there was my three brothers, my age, one older, one young, was getting out the car. I tell you, we don't sell them no liquor. That's the first time I've heard that. I didn't hear that no more until I went to Louisiana in 54, 55 when they killed Emmett Till. Okay, but how racist they were here. You know those people got those homes out there for $3,000-4,000 cheaper than what they paid in Western Addition for those homes. Government finance. Government finance. That's when they came with the GI Bill. That's when black folks started buying homes in Hunts Point. Okay, because before that they wasn't really buying them. Everybody's moving out. That's what I'm saying. So when they came to Western, when they came to my family was affected by yeah, but and that's what they family
This is how much 30,000 is today.
That's my dad.
219.
That's what they want.
She got a son over here. Yeah, that's cute. No, this, I heard this is my mom. That's right? My mom passed away. She adopted.
I'm buried. Let me tell you something. When Rita Gordon came to Hunts Point,
Dr. Scott, she adopted. This is mom right here. That's why she tell me shut up. She's just like my mom. Shut up.
And you have to shut up.
I gotta shut up. She said, come here, Jair. Come here.
That's crazy.
But when Rita Gordon came to Hunts Point,
Small world, right?
That's your cousin.
So I'm a descendant. I have a certificate of preference. But it's not really relevant because, you know, all it is giving preference. Like, yeah, but all you get is preference. Like, they're not going to.
But still, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of, but you have a
But you get
a high preference to get in, but.
And you know you can buy.
I'm already part of the homeownership program, so I'm going to talk.
And don't make $2
Yeah, so we were displaced from Kiska Road.
That's what.
We were on Kiska when my family was displaced. When I was, we were on
City takes 20%.
City or then of equity.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can't sell the house.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
we
that's
gotta
what you
stop.
can't do.
We gotta stop it.
Don't make
Equity, building it, so you don't get none of
It's just a
that.
place to live.
I know.
You
They
can't
still
build off.
own it.
They get so much of
That
it.
you give equity to people that you're not.
You get,
It's a
When
place.
I bought my house, I didn't rely on anybody to look for my house. I went to build my house by myself. I still had my I got my $4,500. But a lot of us did because we have to name it when they hit from the joint house.
but he's talking about COP.
Renovations? You said you did your own renovations?
I went to look for my house myself. I didn't live with the government to look for my house.
Yeah.
Even though I have a certificate.
He
I
didn't go through the program.
I can still use my certificate today. I never used it. Okay?
Do you know they have a descendants program? Yeah. So all your children and your grandchildren, everyone over 18?
I'm on the committee right now.
Good.
That's all they like.
I'm part of this city.
The grandkids. We just had.
Okay, we got 2 minutes, everybody. 2 minutes to wrap up your conversation.
Back then, I'm frustrated. I just asked my parents to be over like last year.
How'd you get that?
His family was displaced.
But why just last year? Oh, okay, you applied.
So my generation, my cousin and all, we yours, maybe like 6, 7 years ago.
Anybody who has moved out of there and don't know that they have a certificate, get in contact with the government and they'll find the list.
So when did the program start?
I've been going through
When
this.
they
So that's the thing, when did the program start? About 10 years ago?
Yeah, as soon as they got kicked out, right?
One thing I saw was a red line with a black ball.
My mom just got her the same time.
Your grandmother knew it. She was on your house when we were going through first got the shit. I got the book.
You know, so yeah, come on, man. Literally Sophie was there.
I know her. I know her.
Racial
But I've seen the moment.
which is a name of the father.
I know.
Even this narrative that
My grandma used to run this
The
hell raised
Yeah, but let me tell you about your grandmother. Because we were at the first meeting together, right? She don't home me, right? I said, hey. I said, you go and ask your brother about me. You go ask your brother about me. She went and asked Sydney. And she was just as nice to me the whole while she was living in Africa. I came out there. We're the ones who surrounded the building with Jesse Herman and Loyola. One night at a meeting in Jane House. We surrounded the building. We told them, Miss Westbrook and all them, and your mother, because she was on there, and I was on there. And me and Ricky Glenn used to go to the music, right? So when we went there one night, I went to the gym and told her all of this, having a meeting down and talking about. We surrounded the building. Here starts on the whole 9 yards. Hell, it's just her. So we want this. No. Y'all talking about housing, different housing. We want to make sure we come back here to our community. We have one race here. That's how the certificate of preference came. And the $4,500 for each kid from the age of 18, 19, 20 years old. We was in the house at 5, 6, 10 kids, right? 18, 19, 20 years old. Each one of them got $4,500 and a certificate of preference. And the mother and the father who were the leasers, they got $4,500. When the kids got $4,500, we had, our committee was going around saying, and we did a great new house, which the first new house they were building was Jackie Robinson. Okay, we made into a joint venture with a black guy. We tried to get a guy from the community, but we got
So y'all were before the ADU movement.
oh shit, we really cool. We got what was it? They were from Oakland. Let's see. Red Construction. Father and son, brother. Made them do a joint venture with Denardi. That was the first joint venture in the city, county, San Francisco. Okay, they didn't allow brothers in the plumbing union or the carpenter union to be in Union Hall in San Francisco. They had to be in San Mateo. We said, unless you bring them here, back to the halls here, you cannot start the city. We brought plumbing back. They brought the property back. But anyway, when they started building, Denardi said they didn't want to do the joint venture with Red, right? We stopped the job. Okay, so that was the first joint venture that came into existence. Jack Roberts, the first one. I got the book. I gave her a copy of the calendar. All the commissioners have the calendar. We have the calendar of each of our subcommittees. Your mother's in there? All of the committees she was on? Grandmother is the calendar, but it tells you all of our subcommittees and what we do. You know, but we did that. I was 18 years old when we sat down in the building with Justin Herman. They had already messed up what's an addition. They had already messed it up.
I can see the relation.
Yeah.
Y'all cousins for real.
That's why you got yourself a lot.
We are related. You family too.
Absolutely. That's my brother. That's my uncle. That's uncle.
We all connected.
Absolutely.
But you don't realize it until you go to a funeral.
No, just by talking. She was with my aunt. She was with my aunt.
Yep.
South San Francisco. They brought them on to
Wow.
It's a small world, it's a small world.
My grandfather worked on the shipyard. My grandmother's from Postal. My mom's father, her and her siblings. And that's how he and my grandmother met.
My grandfather, he worked on the port, and my grandmother's brother worked on the port. He was a supervisor.
Longshoreman? Yeah, you see, I used to go down there Longshoreman when 65, when the ship was down there. Take the bananas off, big old spider jumped out there, shit, homeboy was running back down the port.
That's how a lot of black families
But see, when they laid them off, a lot of people lost about it. You know, the welfare system broke our community up. Before that was.
Because it incentivized single motherhood? Is that why?
They didn't allow the men to do it. If the welfare, the person comes to the house and dying fast, I was one of them. They could go in the house and see a pair of shoes, iron. They took you off of welfare. You couldn't have none of it. You couldn't have iron, no clothes.
2 pairs of shoes?
Men's shoes. You found
Oh.
Couldn't have that. So they broke up the family.
They broke up the family.
That's real.
The men's, when they broke up.
All right, I have to tell everybody it's time. It is. I want to have Robin and Linda and, yeah, huh? Come back up and close us out, so that everybody can have a couple minutes to walk back over to the space that we're reconvening as a bigger group. Shakira.
They got that AC on 30 degrees.
Okay, sorry. I was hoping we were going to do a report out, but anyway, bless you all. Thank you so much for having us. Here we go. Love you, San Francisco. Big round of applause for San Francisco.
Everyone, we're on our way to the Hyatt. Looking like, I don't know where that was the question.
The Hyatt?
Yeah, 11:20.
What's your name?
I'm
Yeah, sounds like a powerful name. You got a powerful voice.
You're going to see a lot more of you.
Our next mayor. I know, right?
I'm with the human rights engagement.
Okay, so you work about the
I'm also looking at that.
Wow. You say they messed up the company? Oh, wow. What?
They were saying you weren't.
Come down and try to drive, the old chamber, computer built, and a diamond key truck. We did most of the about the girls. We did West Porter Station. We did all of the pipes down from here to Crystal Springs. We did the runways at the airport. We had the major contract for the first hole in the Swan Center. We ran 300 trucks.
Before we start leaving, can I get a group picture?
Okay, group picture.
Oh, good call.
So working through my trade. They said I wasn't a minority.
Oh, Lord.
$4,800. The people I was like.
Look to in your eyes and said that.
And then some of the brothers were stealing parts of my truck. I had one brother, we was doing Fantasy Island in Hayward, San Francisco, running trucks for home, going to Fantasy Island. My one gun with my engine on my Mack truck cost me $1,000 for engine.
I read about you and I got to meet you.
Absolutely, you know, I don't want to get a group picture. You gotta get a little chicken.
So this last week, this last night actually, that became about reparations. So it's good to be like reading and getting the knowledge of and stuff like that, and reading about the different countries and how it's moved and bringing the
Okay, so you are in San Francisco.
They have it around. Yeah.